Of you who are guests, we obviously welcomed you already, but I welcome you. My name is Michael Mirdad, and I serve here as part of the spiritual leadership. And our standard routine for the services is for me to ask what everybody's dealing with or what they'd like to talk about. If something's dear to you, feel free, to mention a topic that you want me to cover. We usually cover most of them in the time allotted. But remember, don't just flippantly throw something out, for ego's sake. If something's truly heavy on your heart or truly important or deeply a spiritual quest or longing, that's the good stuff. So please, feel free.
Stress management.
Sacred partnership.
Transformation.
Surrender.
Sex. Guidance of the mother.
Detachment.
Fear to be seen.
The divine masculine.
Okay.
Faithful relationships. Changes.
Okay, that's good.
Transformation.
That's good. Wow. That's probably the most diverse list you've ever shared. Boy, interesting stuff. A lot on relationships. Remember, there's a set of 3 books. We have a couple of them left packaged together, so they're discounted. The book I wrote on creating fulfilling relationships, Introduction to Tantra, and also a book called Sacred Sexuality. So those of you who are asking about those topics, you might want to check those out. And also, some of you are asking about things like fear of being seen. I mean, this is just, and the guidance of the mother. This is an interesting thing because we think we're separate from God and then just kind of trying to get by. So we have conversations about things, topics, addiction, attraction, partnership, whatever it happens, sound healing, every topic you can imagine under the sun. And those are our topics. I mean, there's all these other people in the world that have all kinds of other topics, whatever it happens to be. Who won the World Series? I don't know. I couldn't name 2 teams personally, but, some people, that's their thing. Tailgating parties or landscaping adventures or whatever else people are into. None of this is actually happening. It's a hologram, remember. We are actually in God still in heaven, but misusing our free will to imagine what life would be like if we could be separate from God. And then a hologram was created. It's not that complicated, but it is, especially experientially, because it all seems like, we should be able to figure all this out. And so people think, trying to figure it out. Einstein explained you can't solve problems with the same mind that created them. You've got to switch gears into some other guidance. That's humility, man. Saying, God, I'm going to go ahead and call me silly, call me presumptuous, but I'm pretty sure we haven't figured it out. And it's been millions and actually billions of years, but millions of years. And people still haven't figured it out. So why don't we just say, not my will, but your will be done? You guide me. You show me. See, your mommy and daddy made you. But your mother and father, God, created you. So why don't we call on them for some opinions? Because they're saying, what are you guys praying for? Oh, Lord, and Om Mani Padme and Boom Shakalaka and all these different ways we have to pray. The eyes rolling, eyes of the third eye, standing on one foot, spinning clockwise except on Tuesdays. We have all these complicated ways to pray to God. And God's like, what's wrong with these people? Like, you got to be kidding. Well, we're trying to ask you to help our lives become, I created you perfect and holy. Why are you asking me to fix your external life when you're the problem? Ask me to help heal your mind, your belief systems. That's the only real thing that's gone off. You folks, the more we address the outside world, the more we're actually conveniently distracting from the inside world. So believe it or not, because we have so many ways to mess ourselves up, believe it or not, even what seems like well-intended prayer is actually a passive-aggressive way to sabotage yourself. Is it bad? No, because any prayer is good. But why not ramp it up from God, give me this, to I have no idea how I got here, but I know it was me. So show me how you want me to see things. Show me how to heal what's behind my not having money instead of give me cash, give me cash. You know, come on. I want. I don't care if you fancy it up with, manifestation techniques. The law of attraction. Ooh, that's just another ego ploy to say, I can get what I want by just words, thinking, or, whatever it happens to be. Somebody says, oh, if you hold your thumbs to your pinky fingers and tongue to the roof of your mouth and then try to pray, because it'll override, all ego barriers and psychological barriers. So new neurology says, I want a new car, because your tongue's to the roof of your mouth. It doesn't actually help you. Sorry. It's not going to help. The new techniques, they're just more techniques of man. Remember, I've said these are manifestation techniques. That manifestation means man's infestation. Stop trying to make things happen your way. Try this as a law of attraction technique. I don't know. Oh, that doesn't sound very empowering. Well, it wouldn't to your ego. I don't know means I'm bowing my ego. Look at the cultures that bow their forehead to the ground. Why are they doing that? Believe it or not, the number one reason is I don't know. The little self, the ego self, bow your forehead to the ground. I don't know. And then rise in God. Be born again. Bow and own what you don't know. And you don't have to know what it is you don't know. Just bow and laugh at yourself. The one that stands here, I think I'm a male, I think I'm a female, I think I'm this, I think I'm... Bow it down. I don't know. Show me. You might start thinking you're straight, you bow and you rise and you're gay. You might think you're broke financially and you bow that to the ground and you stand up and you feel prosperous. I don't know. And I shouldn't be trying to figure it out. I should be saying, I don't know, but it's got to be good. How can bowing my ego self down not be good when I rise again? The concepts of sacred partnership, sacred sexuality, and so forth, it's in us to know that all things are sacred. Originally, we've messed them up. Bow down to what isn't sacred. Bow it to the ground. Here comes my opinions of gay and straight or sexuality or whatever, partnership. Heightening stimulation techniques. I don't know. Bow. You see? People at conferences and people that write in, Michael, tell us the magical secrets of sacred sexuality. How do we get more stimulation? Listen, I can tell you techniques that are, fun, wonderful, exciting. But if you don't love the person in front of you, what's the point? You just want stimulation. Listen, go buy a couple of electrodes. Go put your battery cables on your car and just clip them to your shoulder blades. There, you're feeling better. It's kind of sexy, wasn't it? No, it wasn't. Just feeling stimulated isn't necessarily great. Say, I don't know. Stand there with the cables going, what am I doing? I don't know. And you'll lay them down, you'll walk away, and you'll hear a voice that says, but you could have gotten stimulated and now you let yourself down. And you'll be frustrated. Well, why do I always have to go without the stimulation? But after a certain amount of time, you're going to realize I made the right decision to walk away from the stimulating relationship, the stimulating job, the stimulating compliments I get from people or whatever else is of this world. And you realize when I made a commitment to not buy into this world's version of goodness, I found goodness in me. It's pretty beautiful. But this world's going to tell you there's something wrong with you when you don't go with the trend because it wants to feed itself. A couple of weeks ago, I mentioned, this concept of feeling conflicted. It's very simple. How do we know when we're plugged into God? There's something that happens, guys. I mean, you feel a sense of tranquility, inspiration, inner peace. You feel clarity, lightness, right? There's not a lot of darkness, heaviness. It's like, wow, I feel joyous. I feel exciting. Not excitation, but I feel just joyous. There's ways to know when you're walking in the light of God. And we've had talks just on that concept, walking in the light of God. But then there's also ways to know when your ego is in control. Obviously, instead of feeling inspired, you would feel dispirited, depressed. I'm not saying clinical depression, you should judge yourself and go, oh, that's me, I guess I'm evil. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there's a heaviness when we know our ego has been in control. You feel discontent, lots of sadness, grief, hopelessness, despair. But one of the surest ways of knowing that you're walking in the darkness of the ego, one of the surest ways is to feel something called inner conflict. How often is that? Almost always. Almost every second of every day. You can walk into a sacred service and go, oh, I'm going to sit there. Oh, now somebody else sat there. I wanted to sit there. But energetically, that was my spot. Now, where am I going to sit? You're just in the state of evil right now. When you sit down and go, I don't know why she's wearing that collar. She's a spring and she's wearing a fall color. You're not at peace. You're not in the light of God. You're conflicted. You see? Almost always, humans are almost always conflicted and not realizing it. And this has happened since the first day of creation, meaning human creation, not our creation. From the day we first started thinking that we're creating our own reality, we created a universe and our own reality, a three-dimensional, mortal, meaning a place of death, world. As soon as we created a limited universe, it seems unlimited. Everybody affirms that it's unlimited. No, it isn't. Stars can burn out. Yes, but others are born. Everything in this universe can come to an end, and it will come to an end. Because it's part of the universe that we manifested. Hidden behind the one you think you see is the one God created. That's where the infinite universe is. That's where infinite power, love, joy, peace is. Behind what you think you see. You know what that means? That means it's not a second alternate reality. You go to some other universe and live in God or heaven. Buddha said it's right here, but you have to lift the veils to see it. Well, okay, how do I lift the veils? Forgiveness. Well, I'm very forgiving, and I still don't feel bliss all the time. Forgive that you don't feel bliss. See? Even the things you don't realize you have to forgive it all. Okay, well, how often? I think Jesus answered that when they said, how often should we forgive somebody? And he gives them an equation that some people actually try to analyze and think it means 10 times or whatever it happens to be that they figure out. No, he was giving you an example, 70 times 70, it's like he's saying 7 trillion, infinity. Never stop forgiving. When you're done forgiving, when you're really done, you'll know. Because you will all of a sudden only know the presence of God. Until then, you might as well assume you're not there yet. Oh no, I feel there. I only shop at organic stores, and my partner and I chant every time we make love, and whatever. It sounds really sweet, but don't think that means you're there. You're still aging. You will still die because you're still part of the mortal, limited universe. You will still reincarnate. What about ascended masters? Yes, that's right. They're an exception. You know what they did? They broke out of the 3D cycle of life that Buddha describes, this cycle of life, which is really a cycle of death. But this cycle, you'll break out of that and you'll be an ascended master one day, potentially, let's say, if you really play your cards right. Now you're an ascended master. They're still here. They're not gone in heaven, just complete bliss. Trust me. They're just a bridge now between the absolute of God and human dysfunctionality. All they did was move to the other side and decide to stay instead of coming back. Although some of them choose to come back once in a while. They're a bridge. They're going, funniest thing happened on my way to the Ascension today. I saw through the game, and you, still being humans, I would like to help you. Now they'll say this, and you'll hear words in your ear just out of the blue. You're sitting there mowing your lawn, Saint Germain. You're like, what? What? You know, and it's because those beings, sometimes they're archangels, sometimes they're ascended masters, or they leave their calling card. Roses, you know, that's Mother Mary. Honestly, these ascended masters will speak into your heart, into your consciousness, to help you along, because they saw how this all works. Jesus is not only an ascended master, but he's the master of masters, because he didn't just wake up on the human plane. He didn't just become an awakened human, an ascended master of beings. He became universal awakening, not just planet Earth awakening or some other planet. He awakened to the point of complete divinity, and yet stands in such a state of perfect love for his brothers and sisters, still stands as a bridge between God and us. When he said, nobody reaches, the Father or heaven, but through me, Christians made that into a stamp of superiority. It means that our religion's better than your religion, which is not what he would have said. Because he doesn't mean Jesus the guy. No one gets to the Father or to heaven but through me. He didn't mean me. He doesn't identify with himself as a body, right? No, a consciousness. Who's he talking about? Christ. That's not even a he. No one reaches heaven but through Christ consciousness, is what he was really saying. And it's true. Why? Because you have to accept Jesus as your personal Savior. Oh, no. You have to accept your identity as Christ. That is your personal Savior. Your true identity is your way home. And you can't get to the Father, you can't get to God, you can't get to heaven, but through your awakening of the Christ. And it's valuable to use the one person who first reached it and now shows us the way home. You might say, well, I don't really believe in Jesus. I just love, Saint Germain or Kutumi. And, that might be your thing for now. But trust me, you're going to find that the worship of an ascended human being, one day you'll realize doesn't compare to the honoring of your complete divinity. You're still actually pushing your divinity when you want to worship just an awakened human, an ascended master, your deceased grandmother, or whatever else you think is the coolest thing you've ever met. Oh, Gandhi, that's nothing compared to your complete divinity. So we're all getting to that place. And we have to understand that everything, we're from the beginning of time, we think we separated. Immediately we became conflicted. First, I'm feeling conflicted because now I'm trying to separate from God, and I feel conflicted about that. If I feel conflicted there, as above, so below. As soon as I started feeling conflicted about separating from God, I started feeling conflicted in my inner being. Now I start to feel conflicted about my shame about separating. I feel conflicted about feeling conflicted. Then I manifested as a human being, a body. Here I am. Now I feel conflicted between my spiritual self, my human self, my emotional self, my physical self, my intellectual and my emotional self, my masculine, my feminine, my right brain, my left brain. They can't even get along, or they're both in my head. My right and left brain. It's like, I want to know some details. What are you all uptight about, man? Just let go. Someone says, how you doing today? Well, I had a really rough day at work. At 12 o'clock this happened. At 1 o'clock this happened. The masculine side. And then you ask the feminine side, how was your day? Very mauve. What do you mean mauve? Give me an answer. I don't have one that you want. Apparently nothing I say, is enough for you. Well, if you just give me ABC, well, but pink, blue. Right? It's like and these are both in my head. If you could actually make a cartoon of that, it's just like, it's strange. Like, it's just strange. This one's firing bullets at this one that's going, can't get me, can't get me, can't get, These are both happening in my head. How can humans be at peace when they're so at war? Now, the thing is, you don't have to fix all your inner conflict. Heal your relationship with God, and those conflicts will go away because they're only manifestations of your inner conflict with God. Stress management was one of the questions. Stress is inner conflict. How do you feel stress unless you have conflict? How do you feel anxiety unless there's some conflict going on? Oh, I just had a hard time sleeping. Oh, that's because you were at such a level of peace and tranquility. No, you were conflicted. Now, a Buddhist technique, you wake up and you just write all that garbage down because once you anchor it out of your body, it decompresses it for the time. Then you'll probably sleep a bit better. That doesn't mean just write it down and then ignore it when you wake up. It's probably worth waking up at some point in the day going, wow, that stuff I wrote, it really shows when you interpret a dream, you use pronouns. You don't say, I was doing X, Y, and Z. You say, someone's feeling. Feeling what? What was happening in the dream and how did you feel when you woke up? Someone's feeling anxious, you see? That's how you work dreams. You get away from the details because dreams are right brain, not left brain. So you don't want to try left brain analysis of dreams, which is a funny thing they do. Dream analysis. That's like crazy. Because the whole language of the dream is like, no, we're abstract. We're fourth dimensional dialogue. It's not going to work, but this is humans, So those first two levels of inner conflict, the one with God and then feeling the separation and so on, that inner conflict will manifest as every external form of conflict, whether it's stress, as one of you is saying, or whether it's, honestly, guys, should I or shouldn't I do chemo for my cancer? These are the kinds of things I hear all the time. Are we allowed to be angry, or is that like not spiritual? Can I be sensual and spiritual? Is that allowed? Should I promote a certain music group or a spiritual teacher? But then there's some rumors about them. You see? So now what it's doing is no. And then you have nothing left eventually. If you sat and let the one doubter inside win every conversation, you've got nothing left, which is obviously not of God. That's the ego. What does God want me to do? I wish I knew what God wanted me to do right now. What do I want to have for dinner? People actually sit there and have this conversation. What am I going to eat? Well, I would really love to, but it goes right to my hips. Where did that other voice come from? You don't have hips. You're a hologram. Eat the damn thing and have fun for a change. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Which diet should I do? Well, I was going to do this, and then somebody said, they read in Prevention Magazine, blah, 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 and it never ends. You know what that is? Not peace. Not peace. Do what you want to do. I'm not telling you which thing to do. I'm saying to you, when a baby feels hungry, it doesn't go, well, but I'm not sure. It whines. It gets fed. It doesn't go, how much fat content's in this milk? It just drinks. It just drinks. It's like, is it doubting itself? Well, I'm going to start crying for milk because I might be hungry soon. It's just like, oh my God. Is it okay to be attractive? I don't know, because the ego, on and on. There's people that even say, I heard forgiveness isn't good because that will enable the behavior. That could send a message to that person that it's okay. Really? Why don't you forgive and tell the person, incidentally, that's still not okay? See, don't let the ego shoot you down to where you do nothing. And that's another ego ploy. Doubting everything so that you do nothing. And if you do nothing, you'll never wake up. Perfect. That's what the ego's up to. Let's just keep dismantling every chance they have. Get them to believe in nothing. That's dispiriting. It shoots you down. Every thought, every hope. The famous one, with people that do recovery. I've had a few people say to me, and I think it's a funny line, by the way. Yeah, I tried to go to a 12-step group, but those people are so messed up they make me want to drink. I think that's kind of a humorous line. Well, it is. It's kind of funny, you people make me want to drink. But in the group, in the program, that's an obvious one that you expect for people that are looking for ways to get away with drinking again. So you just see through it. Okay? Just see through it. See it for what it is, the games of the mind. So you say, you know what, honestly, there's only one answer. But the ego creates conflict by creating two answers, two or more, to every option. Which job do you want? It's never just there it is. The baby, just hungry, food, done. It's, there's this job, but I don't know, and they don't have retirement benefits like I would like. Trust me, the government's going to eat those up anyway. They're not going to be there when you retire. I mean, like, in other words, don't go into all that stuff. When I was a kid, I was offered jobs, my family, and they had some means of knowing people, and we're going to get, we can get you this job. And as a kid, when you're like 18, and they tell you, this is like what, 40 years ago, 40 plus years ago, $1 was worth, a different amount than today. So back then, to make $20 an hour is like $8,000 an hour today. So it was big thing for them to say, Michael, we have this job you can do. And I went, that would make me miserable. And so I took a job as an assistant school teacher for I think it was $3-something an hour. Struggled. Wasn't easy. You know why it wasn't easy? And I can go into conspiracies about, because people that really do service jobs don't get paid as much. But you know what? Because our and my belief systems were that when you do something you love, you don't get paid as well. I had to get over that. I had to say that's not true and start gradually creating a new, not income, a new consciousness. There was no such thing when I graduated from school 40 years ago. There was nothing that said, spiritual teacher. Oh, well, that looks like a good job. Maybe I could get paid being a spiritual. There was no such thing. There were like 2 spiritual books out at the time. And those authors weren't on tour. There was no place to tour. There were only some New Thought churches. And if you didn't teach their curriculum, they weren't that interested. Rarely yes, but most of the time, no. Right? This world, it's a funny thing, man. So I followed my bliss as best I could, and it opened other doors and opened up. I had to create this career called spiritual teacher. I didn't do it alone. There's other people that did this, but 40 years ago, I was a little bit more alone in this. After 10 years, there was a few more people, a few other colleagues that, out there teaching. But the thing of going on tour was unheard of. And I just kind of thought, if I'm teaching here, I can't keep teaching to the same people. I got to go somewhere else. And I taught over there and then over there. Next thing I knew, it's called touring. Like a rock band. Suddenly I'm on tour. Michael Mirdad, the Vegas years. So no, I didn't actually ever do that. But A Course in Miracles says you actually reject a good life. And here's what happens. Your ego knows you want a better life, but it's going to do everything it can to create misery or conflict, which will create misery. So your ego wants you to be conflicted. And one of the ways it does that is to give you always multiple choices instead of one. It doesn't know the oneness of God, so it doesn't know oneness of decision. Being decisive. This is about learning how to have conviction instead of conflict. Conflict versus inner conviction, which brings inner peace. Okay? So the Course explains your ego will actually not give you nothing but negatives. Like here's an obvious choice. This door number 1, goodness, peace, prosperity. Door number 2, negatives. That's how you think it would be, but it doesn't work that way. It says in the Course that the ego will plant some positives so that you don't become entirely turned off by any one choice. Because listen, it's not about the choice. It's about you being conflicted between choices. Do I stay or do I go? Well, my culture says you stay married until death do you part. Then die now. Why not? I don't mean mortally. I mean die of your opinions. And if your parents say, no, our family, we don't believe in that. Our religion, we don't believe in that. Stay married. Tell them to marry the guy. Free at last, not just married on your car. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Little can, as you drive down. Just look crazy. It's okay. Have rainbow colored hair, right? Just and glitter on your face. It's okay. The world is crazy trying to tell you you're crazy. But why would you take the opinion and advice of a crazy world that you're messed up? That makes no sense. That's crazy. But yet when I'm waking up, do I have validation? Is there any? Yes, God. You are my beloved child in whom I am well pleased. Is that enough? No. I still need my mother's support. That's called dysfunction. That's called codependence. And you're welcome to do that. It's called living in hell. Go for it. Why the Bible? The Bible's talking about, and certain religions. You're going to go to hell and you're going to be in hell for the eternity. You know what that means? The reason they can say that is because when you're conflicted, you are in hell. So because you're living every day, every year with conflict, you're already burning in eternal damnation. But they're not telling you, and it's up to you to go, no. I think let me check. Let me muscle test that. Yeah, I think I'm done with that today. Just, constant conflict. What's the opposite? Inner peace. How do I find inner peace? Who am I? Not what you want me to be, and you're telling me to go to this job and that. No. Who am I? Who am I? When I took that job for $3 something an hour, I swear to God, every day, if not every day, it was almost every day that I went to work where I was paid next to nothing, I was happy. And it taught me, be happy. But there was nobody standing around me going, nice job, man. We can tell you're broke, but you're happy. That's the way to go. Nobody told me that. And you know what that caused inside of me? Inner conflict. But this feels so right, but everybody's telling me it's wrong. Inner conflict. They're wrong for pushing the inner conflict on you, but you're wrong for believing them. I had to decide, no mas. Get behind me, Satan. So when you say, you know what? I've got cancer and I've decided to do chemo, and all your organic granola friends start going, that's just poison in the body. Just say, get behind me, Satan. This is what's right for me. Or if you say, I'm not doing chemo, and you got your traditional family members, oh, honey, what's wrong with you? You must be in a cult because, they said, I read an article somewhere that if people don't do chemo, it's because they're crazy hippie cult members. Just say, get behind me, Satan. Which I think would be fun to actually say. But you might not actually use those words. You might instead say, well, I know what's right for me, and I would appreciate your support. And if you don't feel like you can support that, you be true for you. Mom, dad, be true to yourselves. Elsewhere. Not on my phone, not in my head, not in front of my kids. See? Boundaries. One of the ways to defeat inner conflict is know who you are and then set healthy boundaries accordingly. That's it. What's right for you? It's, be true to yourself. You could say it in another way. But I don't say to thine own self be true. I say to thine own divine self be true. Not to thine own ego self. That doesn't help us out. To thine own self be true. You're going to feel conflicted inside. What does it look like? You feel unsettled. You feel a lack of peace. You feel conflict. You uncertainty. That's how you know you're feeling conflict. Those kinds of things are going on. A lack of peace, but also indecisive. Where the inner Libran has just gone wild. Maybe not. I don't know. The warring twins of the Gemini. I'm just using astrological fun, but there you got it. It's just torn, constantly torn. Now, what I personally do sometimes when I feel conflicted is I'm just going to kick open the closest door. You know, instead of, I don't know. You know what? Hey, guess what? Universe, God, self. I'm just going to go through a door. Because I know what's going to happen. If they don't want me to go through the door, it'll be locked. See? I'm going to do something. They know me. They know me. I mean, they do. They're like, oh, you know. And the ego's like, I'm trying to get him to be conflicted, but he's always kicking down doors, you know. No, I'm going to do something. If there's doubts and questions about relations or, you know, whatever it happens to be, I just go somewhere. I just move. Feel inspiration, focus, and go. Now, I'm not saying that always ends up the right door, but here's a really important key about a concept, talk about conflict. We are trained to think that you're on the, you know, let's make a deal. Which door is the right door? This is what happens. And you know what? Some people don't make decisions. Why? Because they're afraid of what? The wrong door. So you just sit there going, you know, I don't know which door. And so I don't want to make the wrong decision, which sounds like a very spiritual thing, you know. You know what? Just kick one of them open and go, no, that's not the one I want. And go to the other one. Do something. But no, the ego wants you immobilized. Immobilized means frozen. Frozen means you're in hell. It wants you immobilized. Now, check this out. We think one of them's the right door, and I'm saying to you, no. Both are the right door, both are the wrong door, depending on what mind you're wearing when you walk through it. Hear that? This is going to be a little weirder to try to hear because, you know, logically, Michael's going to eventually tell us how to pick the right door. No. I would practice, if I were you, getting clear guidance. And the guidance to the one door, not the two doors that you're choosing between. What is the one that most resonates with who I believe I am? You know, it's you're going to buy a house. Well, I'm torn between these different places. This one is cheaper, but the insurance is really high because it's a high murder neighborhood. But it's cheaper. I could save all kinds of money. Yeah, as you duck, you know, every few seconds. Or do I spend more? This doesn't mean I'm justifying spending more, but I'm saying I can spend a little more. But when I walk down the street of that neighborhood, see, there one time I was on tour, and I called my kids, and I said, "Hi guys," I was always on tour, you know, and I'm like, "Hey guys, I'm going to get a house. So look at the internet and pick me 3. So when I get home, I'll have a few days only to choose one." So they picked 3. I got home, they showed me the papers. I said, that one's no. I down to 2. Went and looked at them. It's very simple. This is how I do things. I walked into the one, I knew this is it. Every house I've ever bought. The realtors are like, well, you have to see about 15 houses. No. I'll know immediately. I'll usually see the one I want first. That's how it works for me, right? And so I walked into this place and I'm like, and they're talking and the realtors are talking as though, and I pretend I'm listening, but I already know, but I'm just going through the motions. Oh, really? Oh, you know, and then the water and then pounds per inch of water pressure. I don't care because I'm going to put a jet pump on it anyway, so I have shower water. So boom, you know. So I walk in, I saw in the backyard, way down, in the pasture, there's this forest. And I walked down there, followed the path down into the woods, stood in this one clearing with all the trees. It was fall, colors of the trees were all there. And I just stood, and all of a sudden, and all these leaves started circling up above me, up in the sky here, all these trees, all their leaves. And to me, it's just funny, like, yes, I know, And then I just walked back. This is the one. Well, yeah, but what? But what? You haven't seen the other one. I don't need to. This is the one. Almost every realtor I've ever dealt with thinks I'm just nuts because I'm not doing things the conventional way. I just know this is it. And it's always worked. But that's not the human way. Another thing the human thing will do is, even if you pick a house, you're going to sleep in that one wondering what the other one would have been like, because you're not allowed to feel peace. You date this person, you marry them, and you wonder if you'd have been better off marrying the other one that wanted to marry you. Never to be at peace, right? To just, the band Queen, who ended up for a few years being the #1 selling band of all time. Like their income was the highest for a few years of all time. And they had an interesting philosophy because they were like, well, you know, what happens for us is we get an idea and we do it. We never have plan B. We just fully do what we felt guided to do. It works or it doesn't work. We don't care because the fact that you did it means it already worked. And it seemed to work for them. It doesn't mean carelessly do this. I'm saying there's a way to just know. And you got to know who you are. If you don't know who you are, you won't know which door to choose. You won't know whether you want the one house with the flower in front, the flower bed in front. See, those things sell me. I go into a house and they talk, and I'm like, wait, but it's green. What do you mean? But the house is green. I got to have it. You know, I'm like this a bit right brain sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, a purple car. I got to have that. You know, colors and feelings speak to me rather than linear details. So I'm odd that way, but it works for me. So how do you get to a place? Either door, I'm telling you, is good or evil. It's not one good one, one bad one. Your ego will tell you that so that you never feel peace with either door. What you have to do is, God, be with me while I make this decision. God, guide me. I am your holy son, daughter, deserving of your guidance. Show me what you'd have me do. Now, even if God's going, door number one, and angels are like, one, go door number one, you know, and then you turn on the radio, one is the loneliest. You know, every kind of synchronicity, one. I've got to have the second one. I'm so curious. The second one looks so sexy somehow. And you go with 2. I'm telling you, when you forgive yourself for choosing door number 2, it becomes better than door number 1. Your state of mind will determine. Because you can walk into door number 1, and even if you're a little happy about it, that's as happy as you'll get. You'll just get the good that you thought you would find there. But you'll also find the lessons that you didn't think you'd find there. My job is to get into a holy state of mind and know that whichever door I walk through, even if I go, oops, I guess that wasn't the best investment. Somebody said, you know, you ought to put $1,000 into this thing, and it tanked the next day. Yeah, I feel shame, I feel lack, fear, you know, because I lost my $1,000. Forgiving yourself is going to give you $10,000. When your head starts to say, well, maybe that was the right, stop talking. Just tell it. You know, you're never right. Just shut up. You're not worth listening to. God be with me. You know, soldier, man, stand up there and say, onward Christian soldiers, man, just let's go, baby. Right? Go. Alexander the Great, man, marching against odds 10 times his number of troops. And they're like, dude, I'm paraphrasing, but they're like, that's not ancient Greek or Macedonian, but they're like, dude, not only are we outnumbered by several, they've got the hill. We would be marching up against an army that's 10 times our size and uphill. Nobody would do that. He goes, exactly. Think of the fun we could have doing what nobody else would do. And even the Bible describes him as invincible. The Bible didn't curse him. The Bible described him as this liberator because he went into Jerusalem and liberated them from the tyrannical forces at the time. He went into other countries and he unified them all, which people don't realize because the brain doesn't allow that with conquerors. They're bad people. He conquered what he believed was hurtful stuff and started unifying people. He freed concubines and said that if they had children from soldiers, those children were allowed to have an identity instead of being bastard children. You follow? Liberating. Everything he was thinking was, for the most part, was about how can we improve? How can we liberate? Make prosperous everybody. Soldiers that say, I'm tired, I want to go home. Here, some money. Hand them money. Don't say, well, how dare you? You get nothing, which is what tyrants would do. Free them. Freedom, man. Free. But this is us inside. You've got to access that inner King David, that inner Christ, that inner Alexander the Great, whatever you perceive to be a liberator. You have to say, enough. Oh my God. I've heard your opinions forever and they don't bring me peace. To people outside, yes, but more importantly, to the voices inside. I mean, they go on and on. Oh my God, the battle, torn. My certain organs are starting to get dehydrated. And other organs are saying, don't you dare take moisture from us. I mean, even my organs are fighting. My glands are fighting. That's not the harmony of holistic health. How do I bring peace and harmony? When you do yoga, it's not about how many asanas you memorized. It's that when I move to the right, I feel free. When I move to the left, I'm stuck. Just like a chiropractor palpating and finding certain vertebrae that are locked in. What do you want to do? Free them. Free them up. The yoga is not about, look at me. This asana, I look so good. It's, I move and I'm stuck. The point of the yoga is not to just unstick. Yoga means to yoke yourself to God. So when I do the asana, I'm finding where I am not freely experiencing God. And you hang out with that position for a moment. Then you back off and you move into it and you notice you moved further. See, that's a visceral, tangible, somatic version of awakening. No parts in me need to be locked up. No organs need to be taking, hydration from other organs. Peace, peace. You're the presence of God. Look at your kingdom and say, hey, peace, be still and know I am God. And the organs will be like, oh, sorry. All right, you can have some moisture from me. Okay. And everybody starts getting along. If you're conflicted, your organs are conflicted. If you're conflicted, your glands are conflicted. If your glands are conflicted, by the way, your chakras are conflicted. And now you're in major danger. You've got chakras that are like, just completely open, and you go into some dark scenario surrounded by some really evil, angry people, and you're like, just sucking in all that vibe. Your chakras are supposed to organically go, not today. But you're like, this one's wide open, and then the one you want to be open is shut down. Oh my God, just conflict. No, not today. How can I know the peace of God? There are some simple solutions. I would recommend practicing forgiveness, meaning any moment of any day that something arises, just peace to you, my beloved, peace. Peace to you, a memory. I get it. Yes, that happened. And forgiveness, and I extend peace to you. I don't pretend it didn't happen, just peace, peace. Release everything. Release all the reasons, to be so conflicted. Pray, but you know what you should pray for? Peace. Someone called, this week and was saying, you know what I want, Michael? I just want clarity. Or many of us have said the same thing. I wish I had clarity on this. Or I just want to understand why you left. Listen to this. I just want to understand why he left me. I want to understand why she doesn't love me or whatever, right? Why did my child die? I want to understand. Listen, understanding and you thinking getting clarity is good. It's your ego trying to control things. I insist on knowing what's happening and why. Why, you going to fix it? You, the little tyrant that messed this up? No. What you want is peace. Peace will give you understanding. Understanding will not necessarily bring you peace. Many of people have said, I just want to know why. Okay, here's why. Are you at peace now? No. I want to know why. I remember this, Edgar Cayce was capable of so many things, but one time a family went to him and said, we want to know whether our son was murdered or was it an accident as it was reported. And Cayce said, you should be asking for peace. And we logically, well, no, justice. See, left brain, justice, ego, insistence, detail. I want to know. So Casey said, then speak to him. And he let the soul of their child come through. And they said, did this happen? We want to know. Give us the details. And he said, even though he was in fact murdered, he said, it's not going to bring you peace to know who it was. Mom, Dad, let it go. What do you do with that? You know? Spiritually, I know that's right. Egotistically, I want what I want. I want to know who it was, what time, how I can get revenge, how we can get them arrested. You know, you want details. I'm not saying you're bad for it, but that's not God. It will not bring you peace. So ask yourself when you say you want this and that and the other, will it bring you peace? That's a good criteria to use. Pray for peace. Pray to see everything through God's eyes. Instead of, well, I want to know why they left me. Try praying to see them through God's eyes. Well, then will I know why they left? You know, still trying to control it. I'm not saying this is easy, but it's beautiful. This isn't the easy option, but it's the beautiful option. It's so surreal when you stop for a minute and say, I know nothing. I think what I want is this. What I really want is the peace of God. When you ask for prosperity, if you had God's presence, how would you not have prosperity? You could say, okay, it's tax time. Let's go fishing. We'll find some gold coins in the fish. That would manifest. Out of thin air, you would manifest silver coins. I mean, it could happen. This is an illusion. It's a hologram. How could you not interject a gold coin into a hologram? It's just a video game. You just have to own that you're the designer of the game. You are. I mean, so when people make video games, they're allowed to do that. They're the what do they call those guys? The programmers. So they just program gold coins out of thin air. And they can do that. They own the program. Right? And it's the same with us. But we refuse to own that we are the creators of our own reality. Because if we're victims, we can stay in this longer. And the ego has convinced us that's the better way to go. At least you know what pain is, so you're familiar. If you surrender to God's ideas, you don't know what that's going to look like. This is the ego having a conversation with us. Stay with the familiar. And I would just go, no, I'll just kick this door open and whatever happens, happens. God be with me. And the very idea of God be with me means God's going to be with you. So you walk through there, man. You pray, and not just pray to see as God sees. Pray to feel as God feels. Right now, oh my God, I'm anxious and conflicted. But wait, I actually have the power of free will. I have the power of prayer given to me. God, there's another way of looking at this. I could be feeling peace instead of this. Let me feel peace. Show me. Let me feel peace. Something surreal. 1 minute, I'm all conflicted. I'm all bound up. And then all of a sudden, you're done. And it could be instantaneous. Could be 3 minutes later. Could be the next day. But it will be surreal. For no reason whatsoever, you're going to feel better. Well, this doesn't seem right. I mean, a loved one passed away, and I'm like, feeling great. No, you're supposed, oh, I miss them and I'll always miss them and I'll never be the same. I'll probably never be happy again. Exactly. That's what they want you to do. When you go, oh, free at last. I'm free. Didn't you love them? Yes, totally. And they died and I mourn the loss and now I'm born again. Right? People thought King David was nuts when his son died. He was in mourning while he was sick and while he was dying and so on. He was in mourning and God's, come on, God, heal. And he was doing what a human father would do. But the kid died. So he's like, kicks the doors open. Hey, everybody, servants, everybody, friends, let's have a feast. They're like, 1 minute the guy's like, oh, my son, and the next minute he's like, baked bread. Give me lots of butter and baked bread, fresh baked bread. That's what I would have asked for anyway. So, and honey. Anyway, right? So think about that. He looks insane. To who? The ego that wants you always in the tomb instead of resurrected. So, people just the overanalyzing. The baby says, I'm hungry. It cries out, and that's what it gets. Know what you want, and just let's go there. But what you should want is first a God feeling, not a thing. I'm not wronging the thing. First, I said, not instead of. Ask for the feeling of God. Ask to feel God's presence. Chemo, no chemo. The peace of God first, and the answer will come to you. There will not be conflicting stories, and if there are, say, get behind me. One answer is all I'm looking for. God, what would you have me do today and not do today? When Jesus was talking to the rich man, Master, how can I enter the kingdom of heaven? He didn't say, well, we have a few options. You could do this or that. He'd sell all you have. That was annoying. And then the guy goes into conflict. He walks up to Jesus and says, I want to go into God's kingdom today. There's his one request. As soon as Jesus says how to do it, his mind started manifesting conflict. But my father worked hard to earn that money, and he gave it to me. I can't just give it away. And besides, where will I go? What will I do? You see? Conflict. That's what we do. Even when you ask God, what would you have me do? Here's the answer. No, I got to have door number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8. Why? Because you just can't be at peace. You just can't allow yourself to be at peace. There really aren't choices. There's just one, which is what most resonates with God within you. And that's the one to pursue. For a while, it might seem like you're not being paid well, but you can't pursue God as a feeling and it not go well. When he's with the criminals on the cross, one of them's bad-mouthing and whatever, and Jesus is just, and the other guys, hey, you know what? I see you. I know who you are. You're for real, and Jesus just, you will be with me in paradise, right? That's just, how cool is that? Like you're hanging on the cross, you have spikes through all your limbs, and you're being told, today you will be with me in paradise. I'd have been like, let's go. Do a little kneeling down, let the breath go. Let's go ahead and just end it sooner. Because this pain and suffering isn't God's will. But that guy got it. It's not about, because the one guy says, get us off the cross. That's your ego saying, bring back my partner, or explain to me why they left. The one wanted answers. The other said, acceptance. I get it. The one that keeps talking and asking is going to suffer here and hereafter. This one, even while suffering, is brought to complete peace. How would you feel if you knew you were standing before a holy being that said, in about 60 seconds, you're going to be in a state of complete bliss and oneness? Think about that. Would you be like, well, I don't know. I've got children to think about. It's like, wow, it's cool. So he's telling you how to do this. We all have these two voices, two on the cross. And by the way, they were also projections of Jesus. They were still the ego trying to say, distraction over here, Jesus. Get yourself off the cross. You don't have to be in pain. Do you understand? I'm saying that's a projection of his own. I would like to not be in pain today. But he keeps answering correctly. The difference between Jesus that becomes the Christ and you that is becoming the Christ is he had better answers. If we keep answering in duality, you're going to stay in suffering. If you get the idea of how to answer in oneness, you will feel and experience oneness. He had the same doubts. He had the same fears. Why hast thou forsaken me? Is a statement of the human self going, me, I, me, mine, the ego. How are you forsaken? It's not his. Do you think Jesus actually goes, wow, I guess this was all a farce. There is no God. That's what it sounds like. He's allowing the human self to cry out. But he answered. Why have you forsaken me? The body, the ego, self. God, why are you not enabling my BS, human self? Then he says, I get it. Into your hands I surrender my spirit. He answered. You see how he answered? doubt, and then surrender. Then he's able to say, it is finished. It's accomplished. He says on the cross, for this I was born. I got it. All the way from birth to death, I kept answering the questions of duality with singularity and oneness of God. And now I get to experience the results of that. Please take a few centering breaths. Setting aside all stuff of the world, duality stuff, should I, shouldn't I, this, that. It's normal to have those thoughts. We're not bad, but they're miscreations. They're not peace. One of you asked about the guidance of the mother. Remember, the mother says, you are my holy child in whom I am well pleased. If that's true, and I assure you it is, then start answering some of your questions, believing if you are her holy child in whom she is well pleased, what do you think she would want for you? And then start choosing accordingly. One of you asked about divine masculine. What's that but another polarity, a duality? Yes, you go from being a human male, female, to a more divine masculine male, female. But are we ready to move beyond even that to becoming oneness? No gender, even spiritual name gender, gone. For a minute, make believe that you don't have any duality. Just pretend, please. Make believe that you don't have any two things to choose, two or more. Just for a moment. What if, in this very second, God waves its hand and you now know, not guess, not wish, you know what's right for you. You don't have to go and act on it if that's still scary, but just for a moment, let's play. Is it okay to be sensual and spiritual? Answer it. Is it okay to be happy? Answer that. Any areas of your life that you feel conflicted? You're dating someone you're deeply in love with, but they cheat all the time. What do? Stay or go? Wait, there's no two answers. If you're a holy being, which answer is the only answer for you? See yourself as you are, but looking at your life. And just hear. Follow your bliss. Not your ego's perception of bliss. Your bliss, your absolute, the tranquility and peace. What does that look like? Walk towards it. To thine own divine self be true. Imagine making just one decision currently going on in your life, one decision you're currently choosing or conflicted about. And with it, imagine the voices of the doubters, family members, realtors, whomever, doctors, just for a moment, see that. It's okay, just see it. But then ask yourself, if I'm different today and not yesterday's dualistic person, if I'm different today and I am a holy child of God, how would I now handle other people's doubts and projections. So visualize for a moment one decision-making process where you see your center and you say no to all else. You don't want to be cruel to them. You don't want to shame them. How would you lovingly, tactfully say no? Remember that story of Jesus on the cross with two people. One, he says, today you will be with me in paradise. Why? Because the guy saw the truth, the one truth. Not living and dying, only life. True, eternal life. And then just imagine what happened. He died on the cross, but he lived. His body ascended, his soul ascended out of that mortal part into higher dimensions where he was greeted by Jesus who said, I told you so. Just imagine that for a moment. He said, you will be with me in paradise. He lifts him to the higher realms. Picture a place we can imagine right now to be heaven. And picture Jesus arriving with this person's soul at his side, saying, you enter, I'm going to go back and do some other work. That soul enters. Now, make believe that God is sitting there in heaven and noticing, here comes 2 more people, 8 more souls, 15 souls, 103 souls. God's just noticing all of a sudden there's this rush of souls coming into heaven. Where's this coming from? What's going on? Imagine this. And imagine the angel saying, these are all souls that are coming in that were sitting in this room called the Global Center for Christ Consciousness. They're freeing up all the, not just them, all the people they're releasing and forgiving. People from all around the world are suddenly sparking up into heaven. What's going on? Well, there's this sudden rush of beings. Those are the beings that these global center people are forgiving. Because if I am God's holy child in whom God is well pleased, so are all my former adversaries. Let's stop, tell them, all of them. The ones telling you, don't do this, don't do that. No, we don't follow their advice, but we say to them, peace, peace and be still and know the I am presence of God. We don't go to heaven and send them to hell. We say to them, if you would just watch me, you'll see the peace I have and you'll long for it yourself. The reason they're telling you, no, don't, duality, guilt, shame, is because they know not what they do. And if they don't know, you're such a powerful being, you do know. On their behalf, free them all. Let them go home. Peace, peace, peace. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Today you will be with me in paradise. The Christ in us tells the soul in them. Looking back on the earth plane, welcoming like Noah's Ark, except it's a spiritual ark called the kingdom of heaven, and you're drawing 2 by 2, 2 of every animal, two by two people out there that we once judged and felt hurt by, welcome them in. Welcome them in. Draw them in. Come home, brothers and sisters. Those I loved, those I didn't. It doesn't matter. Now it's all love. And if ever I decide that a person is too challenging for me to forgive, it's okay, just not today. Not there yet. But do remember, it means a part of you remains imprisoned on earth with them. May your love, Holy Spirit of God, may your divine heart, divine mother, shine upon us and give us these abilities. Let us be saviors to one another. The Christ in me honors the Christ in you. Let's go home together, 2 by 2, me and you. Your love surrounds us and guides us in all things. We no longer choose to see dominantly with 2 eyes of duality, but 1 eye. And therefore we are filled with light, the light of God, the knowingness of God. We have all the understanding we need because we have the peace of God. And so it is. Very gently, quietly, slowly, gradually come forward. Just stretch a little. Take your time. Take your time. Reacclimate. Hope I covered as many of the topics, as I could, as you wanted me to. Reacclimate, and we're going to do our closing prayer in just a moment. We'll take up our collection first. Please, it's 11:11. Be as generous as you can be. We greatly appreciate it. The donations you give, they go in the purple bags that come around. Those are your love offerings, so just be as generous as you can be. However, if you have the means and can do anything extra, put it in the baskets. The baskets are what we use to help people of lesser means and also towards special projects, a few of which we're completing now. If it works for you to do so, try to remember when you leave the center or the program, if you're online somewhere in the world, try to remember, take an extra $1, $5, $10, whatever you afford, and give it to somebody. Only do what you can afford, energetically, emotionally, financially. But give something to somebody today. Shine a smile even, just a smile. Bring something out there, not just in this room. Do what you can. Okay? Do what you can to bring the light of God to all places. Let people know they have value. That will bring them home. More than all the preaching you can do at them, more than all the memorized chapters and verses of the Bible, of course, in miracles for that matter. Show people they have value and you're living the Christ life. Okay? Our prosperity prayer, please. Together. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Thank you. Can anyone share what they learned or heard today that made the most sense, that would be helpful in your life or in the lives of other people around you, including the meditation? What did you learn or gain from any of this? Yes?
It's not a wrong door.
Yeah, it's a big one, huh? It's not a wrong door, but you have a wrong mind. You could go through the right door with the wrong mind and you'll corrupt the right door into the wrong door. Cool, huh? Anyone else? What's that? Everything is worthy of forgiveness. Anything you exclude from forgiveness becomes an anchor that keeps you here, incarnating and whatever else. Yes?
Wow, I was truly meant to be here. I have recently gone through a tremendous experience where I was deeply in love with someone, that would love me, and then cut, gash, love. So I came to a place where I lost my connection with myself. I felt like my nervous system was completely dysregulated.
Wow.
And hearing you, everything you said today was extremely speaking right to my heart, because as I could move forward to forgive him because he knows not what he does, part of me has been spinning in my head that the therapist also put me in the wrong. So I'm like, and I love this therapist, and I'm like, wow, she also added. So if we can just practice every time, because I keep repeating, I want to maintain this friendship or this relationship, but how can I support her work when she could put me in danger of therapeutic injury? But
Right.
if I apply the teachings that you know, just God, give me peace so that I can stop replaying that she hurt me and then
Right.
hopefully not karmically injure myself again.
Right.
But
See, your session with your counselor, and I'm repeating it for the people online in my own way, the person, the counseling, that was doomed already. You were already hurt, okay? Hoping that they would give you clarity, but you're already hurt. That's the frequency she picks up and mirrors it back to you, so she adds to the hurt. You triggered something in her, however, that she didn't see. She needs healing too. Now, to say, just pretend I'm not saying you're doing this, they were wrong. My counselor hurt me because they didn't properly counsel me through a loss that I experienced, which is factual, but they also are mirroring that you're already hurt. So what I need to do is, I need to find peace. Will they help me do that? Not likely, because they're probably triggered in their own stuff right now. So I might say to them, from a peaceful place, listen, I start positives. You're a great counselor. You helped me with this and this and this. However, I just noticed that I'm going through a really dark period about some experience. What I heard you say actually made me wrong and bad for that. I would have really appreciated light instead of darkness. And just in a tactful way, mirror to them. Now, they're either going to say, wrong, bad to you, and then you'll know you were dead on. Or it'll turn around because you're wishing them to feel peace just as you do. And they will go, oh my God, you're right. We don't need them to tell you you're right. We already know you're right when you come from a place of intention of peace. But you put it out there and you might be able to bring her in and walk together to peace. If they refuse and say, how dare you, I'm the counselor, I know best, you know where that's coming from. I would tell them, if that's what you want to do, is share with me that, any insights and apologies, I'm here. Any excuses and defenses, I'm not interested. Because I already give you to God. That's what I would do. Now, I would do the same more or less inside, not verbally, with the ex-partner. That was an old, messed up you that was in that relationship. That's not the girl that I want tomorrow. That's the one that was yesterday. Where would you like to go now? And in a sense, for any of us, we can say to exes, even parents, and so on, even past life memories, you were part of my life somehow perfectly when I was crazy. But today, I'm sane, and you no longer resonate. I'm not saying you tell people this. You just realize it's not good guy, bad guy. They're all a mirror of my state of mind. Does that mean you had a bad state of mind? No, it means you had an old state of mind. And it's not you anymore. There's no way you could be sitting here hearing this and having friends that are supporting the new you, that see the pain that might have been there and so on, if you were still wanting to be in the painful self. So you're changing. And to be honest, if you were in that relationship today and go through the changes you're going through, they wouldn't have been there tomorrow anyway. You can't usually carry an old state of consciousness into a new state of consciousness. Jesus calls that pouring fresh wine into old wineskins. The old wineskins, they're going to burst. They can't take it. There are times when you just recognize, and it'll take a while because you're in the state of hurt, shock, dismay, whatever it is. There's a point where you'll realize this was so evident. This was over long before the ending. You were already going into a healthier place, and there's no way they could have made that transition. You see? It would have been impossible for them to make that transition. okay? Try to see it from that standpoint. Right now, you might still do the human standpoint, but I don't understand, but I miss them. It's all the human things. That's fine, because that's still part of you that's still insane. But there's a part of you that's willing to let go of the insanity of clinging to pain, clinging to unhealthy people, and go, God, I totally see it. All right? Sorry. Peace to you, dear. You're welcome. Yes, one more. Yes.
I just thought that the cross was such a lovely depiction of the ego,
Yeah.
soul, mind.
The imagery of the being on the cross, that's us.
But what I liked then later, because that's what I was reflecting on, when you were talking about the yoga poses, and I thought, well, every pose could be like that cross. You know, you're asking yourself, where am
Yeah.
I not stuck?
Right. Well said.
God, and then in the meditation, I saw myself smiling at that kind of point. And I just thought, I'm going to do that in every pose I'm going to
Nice.
practice. The cross, and I'm just going to smile.
Nice. Beautiful insight. Yeah, that's brilliant. To see that when you're stuck in a yoga pose, when you're stuck financially, they're all the cross. And you're asking, where am I stuck? How, why? And releasing it. Even if you don't know the linear answers as to the how, why, just seeing that you're stuck, give it to God. And let it unwind. Let your financial limits unwind. Let your romantic limits unwind. There's a new life waiting tomorrow called ascension, resurrection and ascension, which you can't do if you remain crucified or in the tomb. Come out wherever you are. Before I let you go, a couple of quick announcements. Remember that we have our healing room, the yurt here, where we have the crystal beds. Those are great, man. Marcel Vogel crystals that are cut a specific way to enhance energy, the piezoelectric effects of crystals at their highest vibration and the way they're cut, just the perfect geometry. So you have those with certain lights coming through, and they're activating and clearing your spiritual centers, your chakras. It's fantastic stuff. So you can book those anytime during the week or next year, whenever. We have that here. Keep in mind that if you're watching us ever on YouTube and Facebook and those, you can like us and subscribe and do all those fancy things. But do remember, and I almost always forget to mention this, we have a Zoom program. We have a Facebook group called Friends of Michael Mirdad. You can join the Facebook group, okay? But if you're in that group, you're then allowed to get into, we have every Monday, it's free for 4 years, I think now, but it's free. It's from 11 till around 1, or as long as you stay on to watch. And it's a more casual kind of questions, answers, and we just kind of go in all kinds of different topics. All right, so you're welcome to join us in our Zoom program. And let's see, do try to remember to arrive 5-10 minutes before the hour, so that when we don't have, and even when we do have musicians, you'll hear extra music 5 minutes before we start the service. Last but not least, I think it is, let's see, there it is. We have in our bookstore, a new Indie Excellent Award-winning book. It's one that we've had for a little while, but it just won the Indie Award. It's called Spiritual Archetypes. But it was originally released at $35, and now it's only $20-something. So grab one of those while those last, Spiritual Archetypes. But the last thing is, September 21st through 23rd is the Transcendence Retreat. It's an immersive experiential retreat held during the fall equinox. So during that entire retreat, presenters will offer indoor workshops for small groups with individualized one-on-one sessions, or one-on-one focus training, as well as practicing visualization, journeying, astral travel, and more. So that's September 21st through 23rd. So the last thing is, last week I was talking about the Daughters of Heaven, and people are like, wow, and online they're like, oh my God, this is wonderful. And I just never got around to mentioning there's a book and a conference. 4 weeks from today, it's finally happening now. The Daughters of Heaven Conference. For all these years that we've been on earth, we have had what's called light workers here and there, which includes angels, can include ascended masters, all people that are here trying to, hold light to help people get home. There's a new faction of light workers called the Daughters of Heaven. They are not just holding light to bring people home, but choosing to be the light while here. They are choosing to be the presence of the mother. And there's a reason why this is being activated now. All too much to go into. There's some talks about it. You can go back and watch YouTube and Google Daughters of Heaven. Maybe it should come up like that. But there's a book as well, The Daughters of Heaven. It explains it all. This is a free-spirited kind of heart in us. These are people who feel not just interest in spirituality. That's cool. That's light workers. Interest in spirituality. These are people that are dedicated to their spiritual path. These are people, and I don't mean any kind of group dedication, religious kind of thing. I just mean people that feel some uniquely strong connection to Jesus or to Christ and or to the Divine Mother or to the Holy Spirit. It's not generic like light work can sometimes be. It's more specific about Christ consciousness. But also, I want to say, the love of the mother. The daughters of heaven are here to be the presence of the mother on earth. They're not females. The daughters means the souls. So we could call it souls of heaven instead of daughters of heaven. But I like daughters better. Okay? So we appreciate it, on that. If you are interested, you can still attend. And you can attend online, the Daughters of Heaven. You can attend online, okay? Or in person here. So there's a couple dozen spots left to be able to sign up to be here in person. But online, of course, there's an infinite amount of space. We're going to have vendors there. We're going to have, oh my God, it's such a dance, such a musical experience, talks and music. And Alan Cohen's doing a video presentation exclusive for us. So we're going to have this weaving for 2 days, Friday and Saturday. And we're going to start off probably Thursday only for attendees. We're going to go somewhere and do a baptism. And then when the conference is done at the end, we're going to do a spiritual wedding ceremony. So we have all kinds of cool things that are going to be part of this. Movement, dance, sound, song. Oh my God. It's just, there's so much, too much to be able to explain it all, but hopefully you can feel the bliss. All right, please stand for our closing prayer. How do you feel? Good, good. Can you take this to the world? How did you do with the meditation? What did you think about the idea of all these souls flooding in and God going, what's going on? It's those people. It's the work they're doing. What do you think of that? If you can imagine it, it is. So what do you think of that? Does it feel good to surprise God by bringing some of his children home? Nice, yeah. Should. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. There is but the light of God. And we stand in our holiness that God created us to be. And in this holiness, there is power, intense power. 2 or more right now gathered together with one intention, pure soul light. And to all the world, the peace that I am, I extend to you. To the people in Maui, the peace that God is and I am, you are. Whether you've transitioned, forget the pain. Feel the presence of God. Come home. Let's go home together. Just visualize all these little sparks throughout the island just jumping up to the heavens, leaving that stuff behind. The crazy world, the crazy governmental world that added to some of this catastrophe, even you, peace to you and know the presence of God. The way you're living will not bring you peace. Strange humans causing others pain and suffering. It's not. Your control is not going to bring you anything good. So we affirm in you the light of God. Come home. Drop all of those things, all the darkness, and come home. One time, everyone chant to the word Home. Together, inhale. Home it is. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we go, God is, I am, we are, and so it is. Peace be with you all. Thank you.